The political landscape in Hungary has shifted dramatically. But the question is, how did a 16-year-old regime collapse almost overnight?
Dear friends, the election result is not final yet, but it is understandable and clear. The election result is painful for us, but clear.
Fájdalmas.
What led to Orbán's downfall, and how did this happen so quickly? Who is Péter Magyar, the man behind this political revolution? Also, is this the start of a larger shift across Europe? And how will this victory reshape Hungary's relations with Russia, the European Union, and Ukraine? Hello and welcome. You're watching the Karan Chronicles, and this is my take on Hungary's political revolution. Let's start with a moment that until a few days ago would have sounded almost impossible. Viktor Orbán, Europe's longest serving and perhaps most controversial leader, has lost the national elections. After 16 years being in power, after 4 consecutive election victories, after building a system many called an electoral autocracy, it's all over. Péter Magyar, a 45-year-old former insider, has delivered one of the most dramatic political upsets Europe has ever seen, or I should say seen in decades.
Köszönöm nektek, hogy elhittétek, hogy meg lehet csinálni. Köszönöm, hogy elhittétek, hogy megváltoztathatjuk a sorsunkat. Köszönöm, hogy elhittétek, hogy a saját történelmünket mi magunk, a magyar emberek írjuk. Köszönöm, köszönöm, köszönöm.
Now, pause for a second and think about it. Leaders like Orbán don't lose that easily. Systems like his don't collapse overnight. So the question we should be asking, what really happened? You see, for years, Orbán built a powerful political machine with tight control over media, strong narratives, deeply rooted patronage networks, and indeed a loyal voter base. He did not just win elections, he controlled the environment, the entire environment in which the elections were happened. And yet, in a matter of hours, that entire structure crumbled. Preliminary result shows Magyar's party winning 138 seats, comfortably crossing the 2/3 majority mark. What about Orbán's party? Reduced to just 55. Now, here is where the story gets even more interesting. Magyar is not an outsider. He was the part of very system. He supported Orbán. He understood how the system worked from the inside. And then he turned against it. For 2 years, he traveled across Hungary. He traveled to villages, towns, cities, building a moment. Not through massive institutions, not through legacy power, but through connection, the real connection with the real voter. He tapped into something very powerful: fatigue. Fatigue with corruption, fatigue with chronism, fatigue with a system that many felt was no longer working for them. And when 79.5% of voters turned out, one of the highest in Hungary's history, it became even more clear. This was not just a political participation, no, it was a political expression. Now, to me, what makes this election even more fascinating is that Hungary was living in 2 parallel realities at the same time. In one world, Orbán's supporter believed victory was certain. Political polls predicted another win for him. State media reinforced that same narrative daily. But in the another world, Magyar's rallies were growing bigger and louder. Independent polls showed momentum shifting towards him, and people on the ground felt something was changing. And on election night, those 2 worlds collided and only one survived. Now, let's zoom out, because this is not just about Hungary. Orbán wasn't just a domestic leader. He was a geopolitical player, a key geopolitical player. He maintained close ties with US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. He often clashed with the European Union. He blocked and delayed decisions related to Ukraine. In many ways, he was the European Union's insider or internal contradiction. Now, with Magyar in power, everything changes. Hungary is expected to move closer to the European Union, improve ties with Ukraine, and distance itself from Russia. And I believe this is nothing less than a geopolitical reset. So how is the world responding to this election result? Russia has already reacted very carefully. The Kremlin says, and I quote, it respects Hungary's choice, but also calls Hungary an unfriendly country. Translation, uncertainty. Because Orbán was predictable for Russia, Magyar is not. On the other hand, European leaders are celebrating this win for Magyar. Poland's prime minister welcomed the victory with a historic phrase, and I quote, Russians go home. That tells you everything about this and how the world is seeing this result. Not just as an election, but as a shift in Europe's strategic decision-making in direction. But here comes the real question. Can Magyar deliver? Because you see, winning is one thing and governing is another. Magyar has promised big changes. What? Like restoring judicial independence, like reforming educational and healthcare systems, like cracking down on corruption and dismantling the patronage system. But dear viewers, here is the irony. Listen carefully. Many of his supporters don't fully trust him. Why? Because he was once part of their very system that he wants to dismantle. As one voter said, and I'm quoting him here, we're not sure about him, but we need to take hope. We need to take the chances. That sentence captures the mood of the nation quite well.
We have a chance to live a life where we are free, we have our rights, we have opportunities.
This is a win for freedom, for Europe, for democracy, and it's amazing.
This is not just a blind faith, it is a calculated hope, a calculated risk. Now let's step back and ask a bigger question. What does this tell us about power? I love decoding power dynamics. For years, Orbán's system looked unshakable. It controlled narratives, it controlled institutions and perhaps outcomes as well. And yet it fell. Not because of a sudden event, but because of a gradual shift that he ignored. Public sentiments changed and eventually the system could no longer hold. This is a reminder of something very simple but very powerful. What? No system is permanent. No leader is invincible. And no narrative can survive forever if reality starts to contradict it. So is this end for Orbán's era? Yes, for now. But more importantly, is this the beginning of something new? That remains to be seen. Because, you see, revolutions are easy. They're very easy. Reforms are hard. That is where the real labor is needed. Magyar now has power, but can he translate that into real change? Can he rebuild trust? Can he fix the institutions? Can he deliver what people voted for? Or will this become just another cycle? New leader, same systems. You see, Hungary has made history. Now the real question is, will history repeat itself or finally course correct or change course? And that's all I have for you on the show today. I will see you very soon. Until then, take care and thank you very much for watching.